Measuring pulse and respirations gives us information about the person's heartbeat and breathing. These two measurements are usually done together. A radial pulse is measured at the person's wrist. A normal resting pulse rate in adults is between 60 and 100 beats per minute. Report the following to the nurse. A pulse rate less than 60 beats per minute or greater than 100 beats per minute. An irregular pulse with beats that are not the same time apart. A weak pulse that is very difficult to feel. Or a bounding pulse that is so strong it feels like it is pushing against your fingertips. Many things can affect the pulse. For example, the pulse may be higher than usual if the person has just finished physical activity, is emotionally upset, or is in pain. It may be lower than usual if the person has been asleep. Be sure to indicate any of these conditions when you report the pulse rate you have counted. Before you begin, wash your hands and gather your supplies, a watch with a second hand, and a pen and paper.
Come in.
Good morning, Mr. Simpson.
Good morning.
My name is Anna. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine.
I need to take your pulse. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you went to physical therapy. Has it been about 30 minutes since you've been back?
Yeah, I think it is.
If the person is in a chair, have the person sit with both feet flat on the floor. Position the person's arm so that it is resting comfortably on the arm of the chair or the person's lap. If the person is in bed, the pulse can be measured while the person is in Fowler's position or supine. Position the person's arm so that it is resting comfortably on the bed or the person's lap. Gently press your first, second, and third fingers over the person's radial artery. The artery is located on the inside of the wrist, on the same side of the hand as the thumb. Remember not to take the radial pulse with your thumb. The thumb has its own pulse, which you might confuse for the person's pulse. Also, don't press too hard. Too much pressure can make the pulse more difficult to feel. Look at your watch. When the second hand reaches the 12 or another number, begin counting the pulse. Continue counting for 1 full minute. As you count, also pay attention to the rhythm and force of the pulse. Usually, you will move immediately from measuring a person's pulse right into their respirations. If a person knows their respirations are being measured, their breathing may change. Leaving your fingers on the person's wrist as though you are still taking the pulse will help you obtain a more accurate measurement. Respirations are measured by watching the chest rise and fall. 1 respiration is equal to 1 inhalation plus 1 exhalation. In adults, the normal respiratory rate is between 12 and 20 breaths per minute. Report any of the following signs of abnormal breathing to the nurse. A respiratory rate greater than 20 breaths per minute or less than 12 breaths per minute. A respiratory rhythm that is irregular. Respirations that are especially shallow or deep. Respirations that do not cause both sides of the chest to rise and fall together. And respirations that are strained or difficult, which is called dyspnea. To measure a person's respirations, look at your watch. When the second hand reaches the 12 or another number and you can see the chest rise, begin counting the person's respirations. Remember that 1 respiration equals 1 rise and 1 fall of the chest. Continue counting for 1 full minute. Note the rhythm and depth of the respirations and whether the person seems to be having any difficulty breathing. Write down the person's name and the time. Then, note the pulse rate, rhythm, and force, and the respiratory rate, rhythm, and depth. Ensure the person's comfort and safety. Wash your hands and report and record.